Hello, good afternoon. This is David Sutter talking to you, and today I'm going to talk to you about my weekly trade predictions for June 3rd through June 7th. If you see here on the calendar, so this coming week, and what I want to go over is my prediction, what I think is going to happen with the major currency pairs. Okay, I'm going to show you what's, I'm going to look at the chart. I'm going to show you what I think based on what I'm seeing on this chart with my Excalibur trend indicator, and what's going on in the basically what's going on in the market, and we're going to see exactly what I personally feel is going to happen, and you can make your own analysis and compare with mine, and we can share our own thoughts and opinions. But I'm going to go over Euro USD, Pound USD, USD Swiss franc, US dollar, Japanese yen, US dollar, Canadian dollar, Australian dollar, US dollar, and New Zealand dollar, US dollar. Okay, I'm going to go over the major pairs. To start with, Euro USD, I'm going to base this all on a 1 hour chart. If we look at the 1 hour chart, okay, we see that we had all this past week, the Euro has been dropping as compared to the dollar. Now we see a reversal. Hit the strong level of support, and now this currency pair is going back up. Okay, now if we draw a trend line, which is this is the previous downtrend. Okay, I'm going to call this the downtrend right here, okay? We have these points, and these points, and these points down here that match up, and you can clearly see that this has broken trend, all right? Now we're definitely in an uptrend. So what's going to happen is, more than likely, this is going to shoot back down and touch this trend line and bounce up again. Because this right here, this trend line was a resistance, and now it's been broken, and once a level of resistance is broken, it now becomes a level of support, right? So this is going to drop, touch this trend line, and then continue up even more. If you look at a smaller time frame, like a 30-minute, we see here that we have a level of resistance, and I could draw a horizontal line here, roughly thereabout, to mark this level of resistance. Okay, so it's probably going to drop down here and shoot back up, and it could drop again, but eventually it's going to break this level of resistance, and it's going to shoot up even more. And if we look at the higher time frames, on the 1 hour, we see this level of resistance up here. Okay, and let me mark this so you can see. So this week, I'm predicting that this is going to drop down and shoot up, break this level of resistance, and shoot up even further and go towards this level of resistance that it hit previously. Okay, and then at that point, it probably will form another red arrow on the 1 hour chart. Okay, now if we look at the next higher time frame, the 4 hour. Okay, let's look at the 4 hour chart. Okay, now we see something a bigger picture, if you will. We see that the price had come up to this level of resistance and had formed a red arrow at this point previously. So if we draw here, now we're looking at even bigger level of resistance, okay, that we are expecting it to go to. Unfortunately, I don't think this week that will happen. I don't think it'll go that high this week. What will probably happen is it's going to drop down and come back up, hover around this line, and then break. Probably around the middle of the week. Probably about Wednesday, this will break, and then by Friday, it'll end up coming to this resistance. Well, probably Thursday, more than likely, it will hit this level of resistance and then come back down to this level of support. Okay, this right here right now is a resistance, but once it is broken, it will become another level of support. Okay, and at that point, it'll bounce off of this, come back up, and then onto the next week is when it'll break and head on up to the next level of resistance, which is up here. And then on the 4 hour chart, we should see another red arrow, down arrow form at this point. Okay, now we see another red arrow up here, another level of resistance. This is pretty obvious, huh? There's multiple levels, right? And if I go to the daily chart, we see bigger levels of resistance. All right. Now, of course, this is, getting a little technical here, but at least you can see all these different levels. Okay. So eventually, this is going to go back up and touch this level of resistance up here, and it's going to form a red arrow on the daily chart. That could take weeks, if not a couple of months before, this level of resistance is reached again. But it's definitely going up. If you look at the weekly chart even, we see an up arrow. The monthly chart, we see an up arrow. So all indicators are showing buy right now. So long term, this is definitely going up. Okay, so my predictions for Euro USD in a nutshell this week is that in the beginning of the week it's going to drop, and then it's going to come back up, touch this level of resistance, and hover here for a little bit, and then break and continue up, and it's going to ride in this range up and down for the remainder of the week. Okay, so just watch your indicator, your Excalibur indicator on this 1 hour chart, and you will be fine. Just whenever you get a buy or sell signal on the 1 hour or even 30-minute, if you have a wait for this to drop and form a buy on the 30-minute, then that would be a perfect time to buy and hold for a couple of days, I would think. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions about Euro USD. Moving on to Pound USD, Pound US Dollar, we see a very similar scenario. Okay, we have an up arrow here. We had this long downtrend, and now it's starting to go up. And if I draw a downtrend that this was in before, like right here, we kind of see that this has not broken trend yet. Okay, so but if we draw from here, like maybe to this level, it has broken trend, but I don't think that's a really good trend line. Okay, so at this point, I'm gonna go by this right here, because we got this point and this point. But more than likely, if you look at the 30-minute, it's showing down. So ultimately, we're still in a downtrend with Pound USD. Okay, this has not broken the downtrend yet, so I would not put all my eggs in one basket and say that this is an uptrend. All right, we had this small brief uptrend that lasted a few hours, but ultimately it's going back down now, and we're going to probably see this continue down even more. If we look at the 4 hour, it's showing that it hit this strong level of support and it wants to go up. So that's a pretty strong level of support here, I would say. And what this is showing me at this point is that we have what's called a falling wedge. Okay, a wedge pattern, and this is going to drop and touch this level of support, and then eventually it's going to hit this level of resistance and break out. Okay, because we had this long downtrend, so it's hitting this level of support now, a pretty strong level of support, and long term this is definitely going to be going up. Okay, in the beginning of this week we should see this dropping probably for the first couple of days, Monday and Tuesday, and then by the middle of the week on Wednesday is when I think this will break out and will form a new uptrend. Okay, that is my prediction for this week. If we see on the daily, even the weekly, all indicators are showing buy. Okay, so do not sell. Okay, wait for this to drop. If you look at the 30-minute, it wants to drop. So if you, based on a 30-minute chart, I would wait for this to form another blue arrow or another buy signal, and then buy and hold long term. Okay, so that's my prediction for Pound USD this week. Moving on to US dollar, Swiss franc, we see something kind of interesting here. We had a pretty good drop. All right, on Friday. All right, this hit this level of support that it hit before. It's kind of in a range of motion for this past week. But if we mark this level of resistance, okay, and we mark this level of support, we see an operating range. And what I think is going to happen, if we look at the 4 hour, we have an up arrow as well. What I think is going to happen is that this is going to go back up towards this resistance, and it'll probably touch this line or come close to it and form a down arrow on the 4 hour chart. Alright. It already formed a down arrow on the 1 hour, and when it touches again, it'll form a red arrow on the 4 hour chart. Okay. That's what I'm predicting. I cannot say for certain that it'll do that, but I have a funny feeling it will, because it'll be forced to show it's going down. The US dollar in general is going into a downtrend anyhow. Okay, and if we look here, even on the 1 hour chart, if I zoom out, we can draw a downtrend right here. Okay, let me draw my trend line. Okay. This is not perfect, but what I'm looking for is for this to either touch this trend line or touch this horizontal line. Considering the fact that this US dollar is going to a downtrend, if we look at the daily, even weekly, it is showing that it wants to go down. Okay, we have a strong sell signal. Okay, so I'm thinking that this is going to come up, touch this trend line, and go down even further. And it's going to break this level of support and continue down further. So this week, I would not be buying. Personally, I would not buy US dollar Swiss franc. I would only look for sell signals this week. Okay, so in summary, US dollar Swiss franc, I feel that it will be going up the first part of this week, and around the middle of the week we're going to see a retracement and for it to come back down, and it's going to keep going down. It could ride in this range right here, and this is, basically what we call a falling wedge. It could ride in this wedge pattern for the remainder of this week and then eventually break out, or it could break this as soon as it comes up and comes down, it break and keep going down. I don't know exactly what we'll do, but what I can say is that I would only be looking to sell on US dollar Swiss franc. Okay, US dollar Japanese yen, moving on, we see a almost identical situation here. All right, we have this big drop, and when you see a big drop like this in one day, that indicates that yes, this is very, very weak, this is very bearish, and that is definitely dropping. It's going to continue to drop. We have a up arrow right now, up arrow here, up arrow on the weekly, and a down arrow on the monthly. So now this is showing that it wants to go up, but what we have seen in the past is, even though you have a signal to buy, it will in fact keep going down. It's going to trick you. All right, even though all indicators are showing buy at this point, what we can do though, however, is draw a trend line on the 1 hour. All right, and it's not going to be perfect, but something like that. Okay, as long as this continues down and does not break this trend line, I would not buy. All right, if this trend line is broken, that would be the time to buy, and I think it will in fact go up. It will break this trend line, but not in the first half of the week. Okay, maybe towards the end of Tuesday, beginning of Wednesday, we will probably see this break in trend and it go up. And what will happen is, and this is just my guess at this point it's going to come up. We have a level of support right here. Okay, this was the previous level of support, a strong level of support. And what's going to happen is it's going to come back up and touch this resistance now. Once the level of support is broken, it becomes a resistance. Okay, and it's going to cut this and bounce back down again. Because the US dollar, as we know in general, the US dollar right now is very bearish anyhow. It's very weak. So I would be looking to sell. Okay, you can buy when this breaks, but I would probably be looking for sell signals on USD Japanese yen and wait for this to come out. Wait till about Tuesday or Wednesday and see if you get any sell signals, and at that point you want to get into the trade. Okay, that would be your safest bet for this USD Japanese yen. Okay, so in summary, do not buy right now. Okay, wait a few days and wait for a sell signal, and that's when you need to get in for this week. Okay, now USD Canadian dollar, moving on. See a kind of adverse effect here. We had price has been rising. That means Canadian dollar has really been weakened. So this has risen to a pretty strong level of resistance here, and it looks like it's going to be coming down now. If you look at the 4-hour chart, we see a similar situation, and it hit a pretty strong level of resistance and should be coming down. 1 hour shows it wants to sell. Weekly shows a sell signal, and a monthly shows a sell signal. Wow. So this is definitely wanting to come down. By what I'm seeing here, you could place a sell trade right now and just hold it, okay, for the long term. But to be 100% safe, we need this to break trend. And what I would do is, on the 1 hour chart, if you draw a trend line like this, okay, this is not going to be perfect, but you get my idea, right? Even if I bring this up a little bit, we see that this price has been hitting this trend line and going back up. It already hit here and came back up again, came down here, touched, and came back up some more. So at this point, I would not place a sell trade. Okay, I would probably wait for this to break about 100 to 200 points, and then at that point place a sell trade and just wait. Okay, I would not even, if it bounces back up and forms another red arrow, I would probably not even sell at that point. Definitely wait until this trend line is broken and then sell. Okay, and it probably happened more towards the middle of the week, late Tuesday, early Wednesday. If we go to a smaller time frame, like a 30-minute or 15-minute even, we see that this is hitting a strong level of support. There's no arrow, but it hit here on a 30-minute. It's been hitting here ever since. So my guess is that this is going to, well, I don't even see it on the 5-minute, but I'm guessing that this is going to go back up towards this level of resistance, which I could mark here. Okay, now we have what's called a rising wedge. This is a wedge pattern, and this price will probably come back up, touch this resistance, this horizontal line, if not come close to it. Okay, maybe not touch it, but it'll come close to it, and then come back down and ride inside this wedge for a while, and then eventually break out. But not until this trend line is broken would I sell. Okay, so the first couple of days of this week, we're looking for this to ride inside this wedge, and then around Wednesday or so, it should break out, and that'd be a perfect time to sell and hold. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions on that one. Moving on to Australian dollar, US dollar. We see here that this price has been riding in a range pretty much this past week. All right, from the 27th of May to the 31st, all last week. this has, right in this tight range. I can go ahead and mark this. You have a level resistance here. That was the high point, and the low point was right here. So pretty tight range, okay? Now, if we look at a higher time frame, the 4-hour shows it wants to go up, okay? Shows a strong buy signal. If we look at the daily, we see a buy signal as well. And the weekly, we see a buy signal. And the monthly, a buy signal. So all these indicators are showing that it wants to go up. So I would not be selling. Okay, if we look at the 1 hour, it shows it definitely wants to go down right now. So in the beginning of this week, the first day or two, we're going to see a drop. And it's probably going to continue to ride in this range, but I would only be looking at buy signals right now. For Australian US dollar, only place buy signals this week. Even if it continues to ride in this range, only place buy signals. Okay? Now, moving on to New Zealand US dollar. Typically, we'll see the same kind of price movement. And we see that it has been riding in a range. It has a low point here and a high point here. And if we mark this, this is a high point, and this is your low point. Okay? Now, if we go out to a higher time frame, like a 4-hour, it shows buy. Your daily shows buy. Your weekly shows buy, which in fact it has come down and hit this same level of support. And we look at the monthly, it shows a buy here as well. Okay, so basically all indicators from 1 hour and above is showing buy. Okay, so it's definitely going up long term. For this week, more than likely it's going to continue in this range. It's going to drop back down to this level, or somewhere in here, and then shoot back up again. So I would, even Monday, I probably would not even trade this. Wait till about Tuesday and see if you have a buy signal, and at that point is when you want to get in. Okay, and ride it up. Wait until you get another sell signal on the 1 hour, and then close that trade and get your pips. This movement here, by the way, this range is over 600 points, 600 pips of profit. So you could, between the trades, you could easily get about 500 pips on every single trade. Okay, but I would, for me personally, I would only go with buy signals. Okay, trade on the buy signals. That's just me. You can do it however you want. Let me know if you think differently, but that is what I predict is going to happen for the week. I've gone over all the major currency pairs here. If you have any questions about another currency pair, please feel free to reach out to me on Facebook, and I'll see if I can assist you, and we can go over our analysis. But I also ask that you please give me your analysis on what you think is going to happen, and we can compare each other. Okay, we can compare back and forth what we think is going to happen in the market. Okay, so just let me know if any questions. There's a link below in the description of this video for my personal Facebook account. You can contact me there. I ask that you please do so. You can put comments you can leave a comment in the description, but it's best to contact me personally on Facebook. Also, there is a link for my private Facebook group. I would appreciate if you could post any questions or comments in my Facebook group as well. This way, we can all have an open discussion and share our thoughts and ideas with others. Okay? So with that said, I hope you have yourself a good week trading, and just let me know if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to help you. Thank you so much.